everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachael Pascan, and I am your host. And today I'm super excited to be joined by my new friend, Liora. So she is the founder of Overtone Hair Care. She's a published photographer, and she's a coach specializing in strategy, culture, and leadership development. So I'm just so excited to have her on and have her entire background to learn about and to talk to us today. So thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me be a part of your podcast and this whole project. I'm really excited to dig in.
So, tell the audience, those who don't know about you, just a little bit about your background and like what you're doing now. Because when I read your bio and then was like looking at everything online, the photographer part just stuck so much out to me, but you're doing so many other things also.
I really appreciate that. I try not to call myself a multi-hyphenate, and unfortunately, I think I fall into that bucket.
That's okay.
So I am an entrepreneur that started in fine art, basically. So I started my career as a photographer. I have a fine art photography degree, and I was really active in the feminist and body positivity space, specifically in like the early 2010s, recently after I graduated college, specifically in Tucson, Arizona. And I did several photography projects that went globally viral, which was really exciting, all sort of in that body autonomy and body positivity space. After my first project really went viral, I was like, I can't do a day job and also like manage the thing that's happening over here.
It's hard, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And luckily, my now husband was incredibly supportive. He's like, please quit your job. I can't tolerate the anxiety of like what your life is like right now. And I was like, thank you so much. So he gave me the benefit of space and time to sort of like manage and ideate. But, it was like 2013. It was still recession times. It was hard to sort of, even though I was getting like all this like activist work published, activism doesn't pay bills very well. So I was like shooting on the side, and I was a very bad photography business owner. And also it was just like scrounging for clients in a time when like photography was a luxury, not a must have. And so I was like, okay. And I was sort of floating, and I met a woman, and she was really driven to be like an entrepreneur. And I hadn't realized that what I had been doing was entrepreneurship all along, with the projects and the conferences and everything that we were bootstrapping from the ground up. And we sort of found a project to work on together. And I was like, great, let's go. So about 9 months after quitting my full-time job, we co-founded Overtone Hair Care. And that was a really crazy 7.5 years.
I can only imagine, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really aggressive scaling journey. Scaled it from 0 to 55 million top line revenue, and pretty much exclusively direct to consumer over the course of about 6.5 years. And then we spent the final year sort of combating the effects of a COVID kiss and an iOS 14 update that were pretty internally traumatic to the company before completing an exit in early 2022. And after that, I was like, oh, okay. Sit for a minute.
Sit for a moment, but you can never, when you're that type of person, you're not sitting forever.
I really can't. I sat.
No.
I didn't sit, if I'm being honest.
No, you never sit.
No. So by April, I was coaching an accelerator full of entrepreneurs. And I was like, wow, this is like what I really missed about my company, was seeing people grow and like talking to them and really understanding who they are. And so now I coach founders who want to build qualitatively excellent businesses with quantifiable results to prove it through a mission, vision, values framework. And ultimately, the way that I like to frame that is I help founders who would love to like their business again.
I feel like that's so many people, especially like you were starting from like the bootstrap of doing it all. So I know you said you like personally developed all the formulas, you're running the day-to-day operations, like the production of it all. And it's not like you're just doing a business you're developing a product. So it's not just like the marketing or like marketing yourself or those kind of things. You actually have to develop the actual product and then do all the things that go along with that. And it's just a lot, I feel like. When you're the person in charge, you're in so many different multifacets of that corporation, especially when you're starting from the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I feel like a really, you can't have a hair color company unless you're like, we have a red hair color, especially if you're like a fantasy, like an Ariel mermaid red. And I remember just sitting there going like, well, the red pigment that we got doesn't produce like red hair. It produces like pink hair. so how do we make a primary color? Uh, and like, honestly, the art degree coming in clutch, like every single day. I have no regrets on having an unusual degree.
I mean, and you have to like, especially for the hair color industry, I feel like people don't just look at a color wheel and it's like the, how many are there in color? Seven of the
Oh.
primary colors, whatever it is, seven or eight. Doing great on my kindergarten work here, but seven or eight colors, like you're going to want that like little bit of like different shades of blue and different shades of red and different, all of those different kind of things. So to come up with those, and I feel like people that want to dye their hair with not a natural tone of blonde brunettes,
Yeah.
or natural redheads and things like that. Like they want something that's going to be, they're doing it for something different. It's obviously not their natural color. Otherwise,
Right.
we need to question what their parents were eating and things like that. Like it's obviously not their natural color if it's coming out bright
Right.
green, but like how do you find that so that way they're comfortable having that different color, but like it's a good quality product that's not going to ruin their hair.
Right.
But also
like
let them express themselves.
we liked to talk about it in terms of like having a high maintenance aesthetic with a low maintenance lifestyle, because that. Like hair color is a high maintenance lifestyle, and fantasy hair colors like red, orange, pink, blue, purple is like additionally high maintenance. And so we were like, how do we make this like less intense? So, I mean, like for the duration of the company, I had almost every single color in our line. Ultimately, I think our teals and blues ended up being like where I found myself situated. So like I had like waist length teal hair for many years. It's like sometimes people used to be like, I could always spot you in a crowd. And now my husband's like, I can never find you anymore. But now he just
he's like, my where Waldo. He's like, yeah, where is she?
Now he just looks for the massive, when my hair is down, the massive curls that he's like, oh, okay.
I got her. She's right there. I got
She's
her.
Right there. Yeah.
I mean, and when you're working on being a founder, do you wish there was something that someone would have told you before you dove into this? Like, hey, before you get into this, here's a tip that I learned.
So much. Honestly, it's a hard question. Like, there are a lot of things that I wish I had done differently, right? When I reflect on the journey, and a lot of the things that I find so rewarding about being a coach now is that I can help people step over the potholes that I stepped right into, or be a hand to help pull them out of the pothole that I've also stepped into. So some of those things, like I find that I can sort of like patch retroactively in my mind. But I think one of the most important facets of being an entrepreneur, especially if you're bootstrapping, is that you do have a certain naivete about what you're getting into. If I had known, I feel like people say this about, I don't have children, but I feel like people say this about children. They're like, oh my God, if I had known how much work it was, I'd never and it's sort of the same to be with entrepreneurship. Like there's something foundational in creating an innovative product where you don't know enough to believe that you can fail. Or like you don't know enough to anticipate the obstacles that would prevent you from starting.
It's true.
And so like, I think walking in with a little bit of naivete was really genuinely useful, because it meant that I wasn't sort of boxed into the parameters of what other people in the industry were thinking or doing. And when I was one of the very early things that I established was like coming from this like feminist activist background, and also being the company's photographer and creative director, essentially. I set a standard from day zero that was like, hey, I'm never going to Photoshop a body. I'm never going to Photoshop a result. I'm not going to do like the beauty mandates where like, you have to make the eyes a little more even in order to sell the hair color. I'm not doing
the filter. Yeah. The filtering, the smoothing out, all of that.
Right. And, if I'm stepping into this, we're going to do it in an intersectionally feminist way, period, point blank. And so like for the beauty industry in 2014, when we started, that was like, I mean, we were just barely fresh out of the early 2000s, like super skinny, like body shaming Jessica Simpson on stage for like being a size 2, like, and I'm like, we're going to show different hair textures. We're going to show different body sizes and different like colors, skin, like as often and as frequently as possible. And I feel like having more experience within the industry would have prevented me from believing that I could do that and be successful. And I believe that part of the reason we were successful was because of that initial audacity and that, really truly value centric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I mean, you scaled this. So you didn't just build it, but you scaled this. And what did that teach you about yourself, like being a leader and help you
Oh,
like develop like your leadership style, as people would say?
yeah. I think what really ended up sticking with me is that like a business cannot be dependent on just like this mythical visionary or hero founder. It's a company is a collection of people that want to see something realized through their collective efforts, expertise, attention, and purchasing power. And the founder is only one person in that story. But the team, the clients, and the community is sort of where all of the magic happens. And it's sort of what motivated me through the toughest parts of the company. Like the more part of, I think the hardest part for bootstrap founders who like start by doing is sort of that really messy middle between doer and leader, because nobody really explains how to be a good leader, but they do, but you're a natural doer. So when you have to start
Yeah.
stepping back and releasing that doing to other people, it can be extraordinarily stressful. But like understanding that like this thing will never exist unless I release, rely, and invite sort of this collectivity. And if I can figure out how to like point the ship and find the next step, then that's the most important thing.
No, I love that. And I mean, you were talking about it being like that early 2000s, mid 2000s there. And I mean, we're in the middle of the girl boss era when
Girl
you're doing all this
boss.
girl boss era. Like we're part of the lean in girl boss era, the Sippy Ambrose, all of those things. What do
Yeah.
you think that movement got that was so fundamentally wrong? Because you were right in the middle of building a business during that.
You know, it's so funny. Like, it's taken me so many years to really digest what I thought about that whole thing and what I continue to think. And I would say it's like, it's a continually developing process for me. But I sat down at one point recently and I just like tried to really formulate it all into like a blog article because I'm like, this was so foundational. And I see so many
Yeah.
Gen Zers rejecting it. And I'm like, why are they rejecting it? And what am I missing? And
How are you, Rich? I would love to know how you do that.
right. I'm like, what is actually happening here? So what I think I'm boiling it down to is like when I remember being a part of it and like I'm closing my eyes, so like trying to remember, you know, my 28-year-old self. We used to call ourselves girl boss. We used to call ourselves lady boss. And it was like a way to sort of say and recognize like there is like not a balance of institutional power in a gendered way, or even in a queer way, or even like in a racial way, right? Like there's a lot of power concentrated with one group, and that one group through either intentional or unintentional bias, typically seek to benefit the people who are like them. And if we get more women and other folks into positions of power, then we can shift those biases to have like a more collective and like overall beneficial experience. But
1,000%.
right. But that's not ultimately what happens because there's so many more intersections than that. And it's like, it failed to acknowledge so many things about the system it was sold to disrupt, and principally the failure.
Try being a mom, or try being more than one thing on your plate at a time.
Exactly.
And that's, there you go. Like, how are you supposed to multitask? And I mean, I feel for the mothers out there, like half the time I just look at the working moms.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God,
let alone the ones that are an entrepreneur.
Heroes.
And I'm like, if you like, who was it that said something? It was former CEO of Pepsi. And she was like, you can't be great at all. She goes, you know who suffers the most? My husband. She goes, he's the lowest on the totem pole. She's like, it's my company, so my kids. Yeah.
Yes. And it's
she's like, he's not even on the top 5 and he knows it. And I'm like,
right.
That's hilarious. But also like, you can't like, and you either have to have a partner that knows that's going to pick up the slack and like, hope that retirement's going to be amazing together.
I know. Like, it's like, can we just continue to hold out? I actually know a woman who like coaches spouses of entrepreneurs because it's such a tough position, but it's like where Girl Boss, the movement was critiquing who was in power. It did not critique the system. So it was like the capitalistic system overall is, you know, it sort of got there. It was like, well, the capitalistic system favors these people because they're the ones that are there. But actually, like capitalism does not seek to empower the collective, which I think is actually the most important part of a company. We're a collective of people, we're a team of people seeking to accomplish something. And it prioritizes that like hero founder mentality where it's like, the fewer people you can build your company with, the more impressive, important you are, and the more you reserve all of that money and power and gain for yourself. And that creates like just that fundamentally flawed toxicity of like, how few people can I do this with so that I remain the most important, because there isn't enough to go around. And it's like, it's just not that scarce. Like, you know, like, and there's so much more to be gained by that full integration and empowerment of all of us in the community around us. So I think what Girl Boss did was it sort of like pinkified capitalism by failing to critique the wrong thing, or like the wrong intersectional system. And then that promise of like, you can have it all, or you can be perfect. It's like, what does have it all mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where I decided that I sit with it. It's like, yes, Girl Boss did not do it right. But also,
I think it individualized everyone, because it made you alone.
Right.
It's not like girls bossing.
Yes.
Plural. It's girl
Exactly.
boss. So no matter what, you're alone. You're alone at the top. You're alone building it. You're alone. You're alone. You're girl bossing. You're on
alone.
your own.
And if
You're
there's
not asking for help.
Next to you.
You can't. That's tokenism. There can only be one.
There can only be one.
There can only be one in the group. You can only have one person, one woman. You can have 45 white men, but like one girl. Doesn't matter like, color, doesn't matter age, just one.
No, like your PE company can only have one female founder, and they're the people that are going to speak for everybody. And when they fail, ultimately everybody fails. And like the standards are so much higher and unrealistic. And it's like, there can't be this sort of like ungendered experience of business. I really think that like,
you're setting everybody up. It's just, I agree.
You're setting everybody up.
I have people that are hired like after me, and like they get them at half the cost of what I cost, let's be honest. And I'm like, yes. And I think it's amazing that you're hiring a female. She has no background in doing this. I'm like, you're literally setting her up to fail, which sets up all other women to fail after. It's not that I don't want her to have a job. I do want the woman to have a job, but you have to do it so that way she's going to be set up to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to be like, oh, it's because she's a woman and then we're only going to hire men after that. And then you screw everybody else after that. Exactly. I'm like, it's not like it. Yes, unfortunately, most CEOs or head of companies are going to be white men, because they're the ones with the criteria right now to be able to run those companies. If you put a woman of color into those roles that aren't ready, then you're just screwing her for the rest and like screwing everybody else for society that comes below her. So you might as well just wait. Like it's going to take 10 years until we see a lot of this diversity at the top. And that's just because you want to have people at those levels that can accomplish those tasks though. Like why set them up for failure?
But it also takes that like intentional work of making sure that those people have an opportunity to like gain access to those opportunities and those skills. Like we need to make sure that entry level positions stay open and available. Like I remember applying for jobs in 2010, and I think it's like happening again now, where it's like an entry level position required 5 years of experience. I'm like, that's written without any sort of thought about what an entry level position can be. Who can afford to have 5 years of experience in a bottom place? But also, how do you get?
I hate that when you're like, it's entry level. How are you supposed to get the experience if no one will hire you? Like it was mind boggling. I mean, I got out of college in the first recession.
Yeah,
like 2009. So 2008 when the first recession
was 2010.
Started.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do?
We were all in it, and you're just like, how you're applying and applying and applying, but you're like, and then the problem is once all the jobs opened up, you're then competing with everybody 4 years younger than you, who also have either been waiting and applying or just getting out of college also. And you still don't have that 5 years of experience because there was nothing to get experience from.
And then if you even layer another intersection on top of that, you have people who were able to take unpaid internships or not take unpaid internships, or who didn't have to like work in retail over the summer in order to afford that education. Like there's so many of these things coming at it. So like, yes, it's going to take time before we see true diversity at the top of that also has to be like motivated by an internal cultural change. Like so many of the things that we experienced as female founders during that time was like, we were young, we were women, we were pretty, we dressed outrageously, we had colorful hair, we were immediately not believable, regardless of what our numbers said. And luckily we had, our CFO is one of the most amazing, outstanding people, truly. But he was like a middle-aged white dude from Indiana.
The grown-up.
Who had a really professional CV.
Yep. But you need a grown-up.
He was a grown-up man. He went and got us our loans. He went and got us our relationships. Like he was presented he always deferred to us. He was such an excellent person on our team, and he lifted us up, and he was never patronizing. And I feel like we just got so lucky with him.
Very lucky, yeah.
He really understood his particular privilege and power within the world that we were running. And I do believe that, like, without both his nuanced understanding of why we couldn't do it on our own and his dedication to, like, serving the people of the company, like, he would sit with any person at any level of our company and, like, walk through things with them. And also then go out to, bankers and be like, yo, here's the deal, like, here's the numbers. And, I truly believe we would have had a much harder time succeeding without him.
Oh, no, 1,000. I mean, so privileged to be able to have somebody like that, because I feel like a lot of times you're in the weeds and you're trying to figure out, like, how you're going to do all of this, and to have somebody who can do, like, you're the creative. I mean, I know that about, like, I don't math.
Nope.
I know that. Like, I don't math. It's not my thing. I'm good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
Math is not one of them. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, why? There's someone that I can hire that actually, like, either is really good or they actually enjoy doing it because they're really good. So, like, I'm going to hire that person and it's going to be great. And they will math all day long. But, like, when you're trying to do it all, you've talked about, like, going from being a doer to a leader.
Yeah.
How do you do that transition, and how do you make it, like, for an individual as yourself? It's not just as a founder, but as an individual.
No, totally. And I sort of want to, like, reflect back on what you just said, because I think that's a perfect example of why the hero founder mentality of, like, how few people can you have at a company. Like, obviously there are parameters, like, you can have too many people and you can't have too few people, but, like, why the emphasis on founders who can do it with no help is so fundamentally flawed. Because it's like, there's no point in me being, like, perfect at everything when there's, like, other people who are excellent. And if we share a vision, we can accomplish so much more together. Like, I think that really highlighted it perfectly. When it comes from, like, doer to leader, it's an internal, it's an internal battle. It's like there are two wolves inside of me, and one of them has to be doing, and one of them needs the other one on a chain. Like, it's not, I think, always for, like, I see it more in people who bootstrap their companies, who are just, like, who sat there and they went, oh, I'll do this thing. And so they stuck their hands in and they, like, found the box of wires and they were like, okay, I did the thing. And they sort of, like, naturally sort of let go of certain tasks and other people start doing them, but they still have their hands in the box. But because you're used to doing everything, you're sort of like, everything can be done.
Yeah.
At a point, it becomes more detrimental for you to continue to do everything, because there are other things that become evident that you need to spend time focusing on. And when those, like, sort of more qualitative, esoteric pieces start coming in, it's really difficult to identify them as actual work when you're used to work looking like something that has, like, a quantitative output at the end of the day. Yeah. So it's like, I can spend all day filling bottles, and then at the end, I can see a pallet full of bottles and be like, oh, amazing. Look at that work that I've done. But then, like, that qualitative strategic angle of, like, okay, well, now that I have these bottles, I need to identify and talk to 3 contract manufacturers and 2 third-party logistics companies. And I should really look at that analysis and see, like, where marketing is going next year. And I need to sort of think about these things. Like, at the end of the day, it sort of doesn't feel like you've done work. And then also you're used to not having to communicate your thoughts to people who need to, like, do something with those thoughts. And so your role just sort of goes from being incredibly quantitative and understandable to everybody to being qualitative and communication oriented. You become chief communicator, essentially. And it's just not a natural transition for many. And it definitely wasn't for me. Like, I know that every time my company grew by a certain number of people, I had to change the way that I talked so that more people understood what I was saying. And and that was, like, an incredibly challenging pivot for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, like, well, we just do this. And it's like, oh, okay. And then I remember having to say that over and over and over again. So it's like, that real leadership transition requires, like, delegation, trusting others, but also, like, building trust backwards. I call it trust equity. Like, you have to show people that you do what you say and you say what you mean. And that is, you put yourself in the highest accountability position in the entire company. And I had a founder say to me once, just like, oh, that sounds exhausting. Like you have to be like like you have to be so accountable. And I'm like, if you want
Yeah.
your team to trust you enough to do what you say, yeah, it
You have to do all of that.
feels like you're at the wheel of a car with really bad alignment. Um,
A great
and you
analogy.
and you take your hands off the wheel to see if it'll drive in a straight line, and then being told that your job is actually to let the car crash a little bit and not to cry. Like, like it's gonna go in a direction that like you're not quite clear about, and your job is to like talk to the car so that like it starts
Yeah,
moving.
you're moving, but we're gonna stay on track here and like it's okay if we diverge a little bit. We're gonna
Right.
be okay.
And then to the employees, what they see, everybody's in the car, you're in like a minivan, right? What they see is that like they don't know if you have a blindfold on or not. And you're just sort of all on the road together. And so you have to like turn around in the car and be like, hey guys, I'm not wearing a blindfold. The road is going this way, I promise. And as long as they know that like the road is going that way and you don't have a blindfold on, if the car rocks a little bit, people can rock with you. But if they don't know, then they're going to be like, oh my God, the car is rocking. Like, so it's sort of about like that weird balance.
No, and I mean, you've also talked about rugged individualism and how this can
Yeah,
affect leadership. So, can you explain like, what is
sure.
rugged individualism and like how you explain to me how it's harmful for founders and but particularly for women?
Yes. So it sort of goes back to that hero founder idea. Like rugged individualism, I think, is like a core American ideal and value that the one individual is both like competent, capable, and has like the mandate to do things for themselves on their own. It's not a collectivist mentality. It's like the manifest destiny. I can do this, pull myself up by my bootstraps, arrive in the country with $2, die with 2 billion, right? Like that's
Mhm.
sort of the rugged individualism. But rugged individualism tells founders, the entrepreneurial capitalistic ecosystem and employees that the founder is the single most important voice in the room, and that the more they're capable of achieving wealth, sales, or growth at whatever cost, the better they are at being a hero founder. The more admirable they are, the more saleable they are. And this mindset is proven over and over to create broken businesses, mental health distress, horrible working conditions, lack of communication, tons of unnecessary pivots. And it sort of exacerbates this idea that collectivity is bad, or like we shouldn't think about
Yeah.
how our actions impact anybody outside of our own end result. When we invite people to participate in our vision, when we hire, which is essentially what hiring is, you're inviting people on to buy the vision that you're selling. So when we invite people to participate in our vision, we should want their contribution, not just their blind output. Businesses produce the strongest results when the CEO is a strong conductor and not a ruthless dictator.
I would
It's
hope
hard.
so.
Yeah. I would say that like there are certain like business cultures within the US that emphasize the importance of being a dictator as opposed to the importance of reaching for collaboration. And while there's definitely an importance to standards and there's a high importance to accountability, like a lot of people who are struggling with leadership think that the job of employees is to just do the job. But like they don't really see the job as anything beyond like the doing of the thing. When truly like every job has a strategic angle and every job has sort of like this internal knowledge. And there's always something that person
Every
has to
job
offer.
literally helps make the product. I remember
Yeah.
I was at like a very, very prominent individual, their company, and we were watching them basically launch a product and the product launch and everyone was there. So like down to the janitors. And I
Yeah.
remember asking, I was like, I think it's really cool that you have the whole company, like the whole company stops what they're doing to like watch this product launch. And they were like, well, yeah, just because that's the janitor, they're taking out the trash of the engineers who made that part that made it not, that was able to make the product go. Like everybody has their own individual
Exactly.
parts that like, it doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter the station. Like you're helping make the wheel go round here. Without you, the trash gets full and the engineers are complaining or they're never going to take it out and they're tripping over it and like, or they lose
exactly.
things. Or like,
and is the CEO really going to sit there and go, here's the most effective trash management for this company? And if you don't follow this exact SOP of best practices, then I'm going to like fire you.
No. So yeah.
That's
So
fucking
he's like,
stupid.
yeah, I was like, this is
Sorry.
the best thing. No, you're swearing
Yeah.
off. But I'm like, it was just like the most fascinating thing where I'm like, and this was a huge, like,
Mm,
Fortune 500 company. And you're
mm,
like, wow. So like, you really, I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't work without them. So why should they not take the 5 minutes to enjoy
yeah.
this and see what their work put
Ghostered.
this through?
Exactly.
And I thought
It's
that was
like,
always like the most amazing thing.
yeah, even the janitor is sending somebody to the moon. Like
Exactly.
that's the only way that it works.
I mean,
And
and those are leadership skills. And do you think that founders, like, what is your most underestimated skill as a leader?
oh, empathy,
Yeah,
empathy, empathy,
that's good.
empathy. I think oh, people want to believe that soft skills aren't important and that
So important.
the qualitative is less important than the quantitative. Um, there can't, I'm going to phrase it this way. When I start working with founders, a lot of them will ask me for my favorite business books. And I always give them fiction books.
Love that.
Um,
I'm like, Onyx
like,
Storm, read it. You'll love it.
no, for real. I'm like Cersei. It's so good. But it's like the way that I see it is ultimately my hammer and my nail is business is always about the people. There is
Yeah.
nothing that your business does that doesn't serve a person, whether that's client output, like who's ultimately buying your product, whether that's like B2B or B2C, the people that work there, yourself, your investors, the community at large that it impacts, like where your trash goes, where your servers are held, like everything that your business produces internally and externally is about people. And when you want to run a company with authenticity, integrity, and accountability, and you want to do excellent quantitative work and you want people to want to be a part of that journey, empathy is your number one skill. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of people think empathy is like
Well, it's a woman's skill.
crying
Yeah.
or
It's a
it's a
woman. It's
woman's skill.
feelings. It's a woman's skill of
Right. It's
feelings.
soft and squishy, but it's
Yeah.
like, honestly, empathy is ruthless. It's ruthless with you as an individual, as a leader, but it requires a lot of introspection from the employees because it means that we can't default into like our worst state of being where we assume negative intent from everyone around us. It pushes us into the way that I think empathy is most effectively used as a leadership skill is to sit with yourself and question why somebody may be acting the way they're acting, why something is not necessarily working, what's been communicated that might be being misunderstood. And you really have to just imagine how that person's worldview is. You just have
Yeah.
to say, like, okay, this person is experiencing me in this way. And you don't have to fix it, but you just hold accountability to it. And that's where that shared accountability comes in, right? Like, I might have set an employee up to fail because I didn't onboard them. Their failure is not exclusively their fault. And unless I can
No.
empathize with how I may have set them up to fail,
Well, that empathy also results in accountability.
it's its number one most bound partner. And I think the more we can drive empathy from a founder perspective and from a CEO perspective, from a leadership perspective, the more everyone in a company has the potential to benefit and the more the product has the potential to improve and have longevity. Like the short term gain versus the long term gain of like really considering how people are taking in your messaging and your product and your impact. It's profound.
No, 1,000. And like when you're a founder and it's all the things that we're doing, but I feel like empathy is obviously the number one soft skill that you can have, but scaling it, like you can't scale without empathy because you're not bringing in the accountability. You're not bringing in the amount of people that also
Yeah.
see your vision, but that are there to work and like drive your vision home. So
Mhm.
how do you feel, or what do you wish more founders understood about what scaling actually feels like? Because it's a feeling. It's like, it's a lot and
Yeah.
you're going at a high rate and you're trying to balance the empathy and the work life and like all of the things that are happening.
Yeah. I think it's important that founders don't romanticize the hustle, that they show up as they want others to show up, that they model that behavior really well, and that they understand that leadership is not innate. So it's something that they have to work on, and it's also something they have to train on. One of the things that we did at Overtone that I'm really proud of is that we had management classes that we wrote and designed for everybody that was coming in as a manager. And it
Oh my
was
God, I love
just
that.
it was like to set expectations around how we wanted to see people manage. And a lot of that was just training and accountability and documentation. So it was like, how can we help you understand how to approach challenging conversations with employees that you care about? How do you put somebody on a PIP where they feel supported instead of like you're just on train to
Yeah.
fire
So
them?
to firing.
Right. Like, how do you actually use these as growth opportunities? How do you have somebody who started in, our most entry level position rank up into a more established position? And how do you create that growth path? How do you what is the point of a one-on-one? And like, what is your job as manager?
Yeah, those are so important. They don't do that. They literally hand you a bunch of money and they're like, and you have this head count, like go be. And you're like, okay. Like, I don't have a leadership style. I don't even have let
Right.
alone a leadership style. And you want to give me these millions of dollars and I have a 12-person head count and I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
then
even know how to onboard.
when you look at like the business case for that, right? Like it's so much more
What a waste
expensive
of time.
to
Yep, to
hire and
waste of time.
replace.
Mhm.
But if you can, and people don't leave companies, they leave managers.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you make sure, or not even make sure, but like, how can you endeavor to scale your culture and scale your people with your like sales, right? And it can feel like disconnection from the original mission, and people who thrive in more startup-y, scrappy environments can feel really constrained when things become more official. And I think some people have a real pride in being like, oh, we've never fired a single person. I don't think that that's a marker of an excellent company. I think a marker of an excellent company is like when the person who is furthest from the CEO can tell you what the company's mission, vision, and values are, and tell you sort of how they've seen that play out for them. I think that that's a marker of a really incredible job done with communication, especially if that person can say like, here's how I've contributed to these objectives.
Yeah.
But it's tough. There's a lot of like intensity, intense emotions. And like from that founder perspective, like that roller coaster is addictive and damaging. Like the highs are super high, the lows are incredibly low. The fear is wild. And like we scaled so rapidly year over year in incredible circumstances and through the pandemic. And like, it gave me chronic illness because I didn't manage it maybe in the best way that I could have. And like, when I look back, I don't know that there's anything I could have done to really prevent that, right? You asked at the beginning, is there something that I wish I could have told myself? While I was scaling over time, my mom also was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so not only was the company growing at that rate and I was developing leadership skills over here, I was also constantly flying to the East Coast to be with her. And the accumulation of all that stress, even at a young age, was incredibly damaging. And even if somebody had told me that, I think I would have been like, I will literally worry about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But something that I'm adamant about with my clients who I see who are on that roller coaster is not to get off the roller coaster, but to recognize that it's an addictive cycle and to work out stronger coping mechanisms and to help them put into perspective what it's doing to their ability to emotionally regulate or produce endorphins or dopamine in the middle. So when I have somebody tell me like, I feel so low or I feel so high, I'm like, I'm so glad that you can still feel those emotions. If you come to me and you say that you can't feel anything, that's when I know that we're really struggling. Like there was a time when I think we appeared on Oprah.com and somebody in my company wrote to me, she's like, are you just elated right now? And I'm like, I can't feel anything.
You're like, I have nothing left to give, guys. It's burnt out. That's burnout like none other. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish I hadn't said that to her because I don't believe that was her thing that she had to carry. But like, that's the big warning sign that I look out for with my founders, and that I work really hard with my aggressively scaling clients to prevent.
I love that. And so what advice would you give a woman building something in 2026? Like you started this, decade over earlier. So what would you give for advice now for 2026?
I would say to be really choiceful with your partners and generous with your thinking. I would say I have values alignment is really important. Whenever you pick somebody that's working with you, either as a right hand, as a co-founder, it's important that you share a belief in how the world should operate and the change that you want to make within it. Have good documents that protect yourself. And generous with your thinking means like really reach for that empathy, but also like don't short sight what your vision can be based on what you think other people will go for. Like colorful hair as a lifestyle was like a very, very small audience compared to like the broader hair care market. But we served those people and we served them really, really well. And then that grew over time. And I think that like these days people tend to maybe over rely on things outside of themselves for validation on what is or isn't a good idea. I hear a lot of people saying that they're going to ChatGPT for business ideas. And I could not more severely advise against doing that because it sort of destroys that naivete, right? You don't
destroys creativity. Yeah.
Destroys the creativity. You don't learn that self-reliance and that self-trust that you will absolutely need. And like, you don't gain that generosity of thought, like how you can bring others in to make it better. So yeah.
I love that. That's such good advice. And as we wrap up, I do have one last question I like to ask all of my guests. But if you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
Stay weird, motherfucker.
Love that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you all dive into it because look what it's going to help you do. Look what you're going to accomplish with it.
Yeah.
That's such good advice. I love, we're going to put that on a bumper sticker. We were all weird. Like, you cannot sit there. Like, I look back and I went to an all girls Catholic school. So there's not enough of us, but like, love it. But like, there were not enough of us, but like, I look back and, you know, like what we thought were like, well, a popular person, none of us, they were all so weird. Every single one of those girls are weird as fuck and they're still weird. And I love that about them. But like we see them 20 years later and I'm like, God, we look back at yearbooks and I'm like, God, we were just like, we were weird. We were weird. Good for us.
Weird kid.
Like weird kids. And we had that privilege because there was no boys around. So like, you just you got to be yourself. And like, you know what I mean? Who were you trying to impress? No one, because there was no boys around. We were just doing our own thing. We looked like shit 24/7. Like, thank God that wasn't photo day every day. But like, you look at those yearbook photos and I'm like, you can tell none of us gave a crap about our appearance.
No, I was a Renaissance fair kid. Like, I was a theater kid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we've got those girls. I'm like, get a turkey leg.
Hell yeah. I'm all about it. Like, I still have my costumes. You know what I mean? Like,
as you should. They took a lot of work to put those together.
For real. A lot of money, a lot of time. Got a whole bin. Yeah, stay weird. Like,
I love that.
If it feels like others might judge, like, embrace the cringe. Like, what does it say? Like, don't kill the cringe, kill the part of you that cringes.
No, I mean, I'm 39 and doing this and doing like, you know, you have to have a social media base now to like have anything. Mm-hmm. And I did like a day in the life yesterday and I'm like, this is the most I'm 39. What do you think? Like, my day in the life I'm unemployed also. My day in the life is making espresso with my red light mask on, sitting with my cats, applying to jobs. And then I did a vision board. Like, nothing in here is like, but I'm like, how cringy.
I am going to go.
You gotta post it. You have to post it. I was like, you have to post them. And you're just like, what world are we living in? I'm like,
I'm going to go on social media and find it. I want to watch it so bad.
You should Femme Force on your coat. And like my voiceover, I'm like, welcome to day of my life of glow up, day number 1. La, la, la. Like, and I'm just like, what voice? Like, is that what my voice sounds like on the phone? I'm like, well, I can't change it. It's done now. I'm not doing it again. So I'm like, it's in there. And I'm just like, that's. But you just have to, the cringe is worth it. I'm like, because you have to do it. Because that's how the world unfortunately goes around nowadays. So I'm like, also people are going to cringe and then they're going to find something else to be like, oh, 2 seconds later, they're never going to remember this ever again. So I'm like, they moved on. And you just have to have that confidence. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. And it's always just such a joy to get to talk to you and like learn about all of this and learn about you and what you're doing. So tell everybody though where they can find you. We'll plug it in the notes, but just so in case they're driving or anything.
Yes. Thank you for having me. This was so wonderful. Folks can find me at LioraDudar.com, LioraDudar.com. And that's my coaching. For photography, you can find me at LioraKphotography.com. And then also find me on LinkedIn. I've been trying to do more writing over there. So if you like it, if you hate it, hit me up.
Hey, the views of you, we take them.
Engage with me.
Engage, just engage. It doesn't matter. We don't even care. Just engage with us. We're here for it. We love it.
Engage. I'm going to go hit a bunch of likes on your day in the life. I think that's going to be great.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you next week and have a great week.